Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 134. That's right, we're at, and you are listening to Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Blaine, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my partner, my friend, the founder and CEO of Dry Run. His name is Blaine Burke. What's up, Blaine?
Man, 134. I'm ready to go. I got a really nice beer cooking right here, and it's getting hot here in Scottsdale. It was a hot day, and I was ready for a cold beer, so this is perfect timing.
Well, I got to tell you, we don't normally get a lot of rain in Texas, but all week long it has just been rain after rain. As a matter of fact, a whole month, just rain after rain. My grass, my flowers, everything is just, all it needs is a little sun and they'll explode. But man, there's plenty of water in Texas right now.
We've actually had a little bit more rain than usual last month, and I actually had grass starting to grow up on our front yard, which is all rock. And so I went and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get some spray, but I'm going to get, like this organic stuff that won't hurt the birds and won't hurt the bees and all that stuff. It also does not hurt grass at all. So I sprayed this and I kept making it stronger. I went past the recommended top strength that I sprayed this like 3-4 times. Nothing. Yeah. I think it made it it just grew even better, I think. So I finally went and got something that I still think isn't like totally going to kill everything in the world, but it killed the grass. So I learned my lesson that I'm pretty sure I could have sang to the grass and killed it faster than the stuff I was using.
I used to have a female dog, and she could kill grass. She can definitely kill grass. So maybe that's what you need. Just get a dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to have to train them to just go do the rounds. Don't miss a spot.
That's right.
Drink more water.
That's right. Well, good. Hey, this is going to be this is a topic today, right? About patience versus impatience and how I think both sides are double-edged swords. Doesn't matter if you're showing patience, you're showing impatience, it's a double-edged sword. But to get going, I'm going to talk about how impatient I was. So that's what my beer today, right? My beer today is about impatience. It is a Mike Blaine Baltimore Mike beer, but I was impatient because I hated seeing this in the fridge. I was like, there's got to be a good episode where I can get it the hell out of the fridge, and it's called Daddy Juice.
Nice.
Just got to get it going. And I wouldn't have done it, but he sponsored it. He sent it. I would have probably skipped it. But I'm like, all right, so Daddy Juice. But it is a sour ale brewed with blueberry, mango, and vanilla. It's only 6%. But so it's going to be interesting. I was impatient because I wanted to try it, but B, I'm a little embarrassed by it.
Nice. Well, that looks like a fun one. I do like fun looking beers though. It's always worth it. So I couldn't find anything in my fridge that seemed to go with the topic today, which is pretty rare. I can usually find something, but I will say I'm starting to work our fridge down because we're going to be on the road, heading out of here to head back north in just a couple of weeks here, 2-3 weeks. So my fridge, I'm starting to reduce the inventory, which we've had topics on reducing inventory before. But so what I dug out was this.
Oh, cool.
Tropi Cannon Citrus IPA, and it's from Heavy Seas Beer.
I think you had them.
So, I don't know.
Maybe.
What's that?
I think I've seen that before, that company.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen this one before, actually. I'm pretty sure this is the first Heavy Seas ones I've had, but this came from Baltimore Mike. And I don't know, I say like you could be patient in Heavy Seas. I don't know. That's a real stretch, but I can usually come up with something. But I want to thank our first beer sponsor today, Baltimore Mike, who sent me this beer. And it's a terrific beer, by the way, Mike. And also, there has been just this mass confusion over the last about 2 hours because I got an email from Mike Blaine, because I didn't change it in my book on my phone that was showing that he was at the Guinness, the Baltimore Guinness location, getting ready for the show. And I immediately, I totally blanked and thought, oh, Texas Mike is in Baltimore. And I'm like, must be having a beer with the other Mike. And then we go through this conversation for so long. And then I log in and here you're in Texas. I'm like, I thought you were in Baltimore. No, that's the other Mike. So here, so Baltimore Mike, there's been, if you look at your text messages and I make 0 sense, it's because I was totally confused on which Mike was sending me that. So I had to change my address book so it's a little more clear.
So that's one of the unintended consequences of having a friend with the same name. so from now on, when I want to do dumb shit, I'm going to just impersonate him.
Oh yeah.
People just think it's him. Like, oh no, this is Baltimore Mike.
And it's also the problem with having a group text when 2 people have the same name. That doesn't help at all either. So it was anyway, it was kind of some ridiculousness this afternoon, but this is an absolutely terrific beer. So thanks again.
Well, Baltimore Mike did send me my beer as well. And I didn't mention the brewing company, but it's Aslin Beer Company, Aslin Beer Company. So I know you always like to do that. So
yeah,
I'm going to assume up there in Baltimore somewhere, since that's what he was doing. He was trying to give us propaganda. We still don't like Baltimore Ravens, but
but love the beer.
The beer's good. The beer's good. And he didn't mention the Wire Tour. Come on, you got to do that. You got to do the Wire Tour.
Yeah, if you're going to Baltimore, I guess you got to do the Wire Tour. But that sounds like I don't know, like that sounds like a little bit of hair-raising tour right there.
There you go. So, hey, let me mention our other sponsor. It's if you want to know more about QuickBooks, if you're like going just QuickBooks, it's just I know I need it, I know I got to have it, I know I got to use it, but I just don't know enough about it. Contact Rachel Barnett over at Gentle Frog. She is going to get you set up, get you hooked up, get you learning more about QuickBooks than you ever had before in your life. So go check her out at Gentle Frog.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate it. As always.
So, all right. So what about all this? We're getting a lot of stuff. You're talking about more and more subscribers and people, popping up in random places. I'm even getting friend requests to people that know you. They're giving me friend requests on our connection request on LinkedIn. I mean, this thing is starting to cross pollinate and starting to take wings, man. I mean, it's a really cool feeling. And I think it's your shorts. I think it's what you're doing on the shorts.
Oh, I was just thinking, I don't think anyone wants to look at my knobby knees, but then I realized, oh, you meant the short videos. Yeah, we have been putting shorts up, and what I noticed today was we're getting because we're on so many networks. That's the thing. It's not like one big one. We're on so many different networks and channels and everything, and they just start to add up. And I know we're getting a ton of views on these shorts, and yeah, it's very cool. It's nice to see a little bit of activity. So that's great.
Yeah. What's been cool about it is I think we're exercising patience.
Nice.
Meaning that our whole goal was to come in this and be as organic as possible. Don't pay for users. Don't advertise. Don't make it anything other than what it is. And that's us, right? I mean, so I really enjoy the fact that we've just said, hey, we're going to have a show. We're going to talk to each other. We're going to make it as entertaining and educational as possible. And that's it. There's no frills. This is the no fluff, no bullshit type of thing going on.
Yeah. The No Frills podcast right here. But we've got lots of frills because we're doing beer, we're doing BS, and we're doing some biz talk. So this was a really interesting topic, and it really hit me immediately when I saw it because, like you were saying before the show, there's this push and pull where sometimes patience is just slow. And it's kind of the wrong thing to do, and it can actually hold you back. But there's times where you really need to be patient. And I think, our business, we've been guilty of both. There's times where we've been too patient. Hang on, let's see how this works. Get more data, and we started to go against some of those gut feelings, which gut feeling is generally, like, from what I understand, is basically pattern recognition. So that's why gut feeling is a good thing to track sometimes. But there's other times when we've skipped things and blown past things. And I think our mantra in 2024 and a good chunk of 23 was just over and over again. It's like, guys, let's do it right, not fast. And I think we're really seeing the dividends from that, because there were times in the past that we would charge over the hill over and over and over again, and just get pulled in every different direction, right?
Yeah. So the thing about patience, right? I mean, I look at some decisions like in management. I mean, I'm going to start there instead of just overall business strategy. I'm going to start off in like management. I like to think that, and I think this comes right from being a former state trooper, that unless there is a safety issue, unless life is at stake or somebody's getting hurt or whatever, there's no management decision you have to make instantly. You can always back up and think about it. You can always say, hey, let me think about that and get back to you. So, because what I've noticed is that a lot of times my gut instinct is emotional, and that's not always the right response, right? Is to go, oh, and just barf at somebody because you're mad at whatever you just heard. But I think if you just are more patient with the information, say digest it, I typically come up with a different solution than what my first reaction would be.
Yeah.
So,
And I know that, like, I can tell kind of my state of mind based on how patient I am. So when I feel under pressure and you've got a little bit of that stress and there's lots of things going on, even if it's good stuff, you get that pressure, my patience level goes down, and I'm much more impatient and much more go over the hill without thinking as much, right? And I think that oftentimes is actually, like, it is, I think oftentimes the wrong approach. I will say not always the wrong approach. There are times when you need to react really fast and really decisively, and you have to do it. Like, you got to be quick and decisive. There's times when that happens. I just think that's kind of a very small minority of times. And I know with myself, I can start going into that go, push. And I think sometimes to my detriment or the team's detriment. And so I'm working on that, because you're always trying to go, let's take our time. Let's do this not do it right, not fast. And that's even how we communicate and work through things, right?
well, you want to talk about impatience, right? Because that's what I'm thinking about. If I don't want to wait any longer, I can't wait any longer. And the biggest example that I found or can remember of impatience paying off, saying we cannot wait any longer, is Netflix. Meaning that they were going head to head with Blockbuster, trying to just their competitive advantage was, we're going to mail it right to your house rather than get late fees, no whatever. You can just have 3 DVDs at a time, and if you don't send one back, you don't get a new one. Right? That was the penalty. But they saw streaming faster than anybody.
Yeah.
Right. So, matter of fact, that's part of the first streaming that I remember was Netflix. Outside of the cable company, cable companies had to rush to catch up. Yeah. But they were impatient enough. And what happened, if you look at the way they grew, DVDs were great, but when streaming hit, they took off like super crazy. And it was them rushing to get a platform into the market that had the way we consume information now through streaming events or on-demand events. That was actually something that paid off, the impatience that their team had.
Yeah, the only thing is I'm not sure how. I wonder if there was a lot of patience with Netflix because they saw the opportunity to stream. I think that was their business plan from the start, in a way, or very early on. But they were mailing DVDs until the technology and everything, because again, timing is so critical for business, right? And they somehow hit the timing just right. And I don't know if there's a combination there. It's like they were impatient and they're going to do it first, and they're going to get out there. And sometimes that can be too early, and you can die from doing that. But they also had to be patient in the way that the technology isn't there. So just hold on until we can actually do this, right?
I think their problem was the platform, right? They didn't have the infrastructure to put it on your TV. They might have, maybe in a computer they could do it behind a website, but there wasn't an Apple TV box. There wasn't Roku. There weren't smart TVs. So maybe the patience was waiting for the platform that they could insert it into and become an app, an app icon on a smart TV or, whatever. But but being there first, they were there and they're like, oh no, this is going to streaming. We just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. What's funny, a little bit of BS here, but what's funny is how impatient the market gets like immediately right after, right? So you can see like Netflix comes out. It's like, okay, you never have to go to the DVD store. It's right there. You can pick your stuff. We've invented streaming. And, it's like, yeah, my video paused for a half a second. They're immediately impatient with the bleeding edge technology. It's like, how come this isn't working? Well, we're doing something that no one else has ever done.
Remember there's all the buffering, and we just, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. People freak out.
Yeah. Well, that actually created a whole nother market for internet providers. They had to increase bandwidth. They had to, update their packages, and they could charge more for it as well. Hey, you're consuming more bandwidth. You're consuming more data, so you're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah, and it also basically really encouraged the use of VPN, so you could watch the stuff that you're paying for wherever you are, which has kind of made that from sort of the underground IT crowd, I think, in some ways too. Yeah, lots of people are using it now so they can watch their Netflix on the road.
Well, that impatience, I mean, we tend to call that in like technical terms, that's first mover advantage, right? Where you're like, oh, no, I got to get this out there because somebody else is going to have the same idea and I'm not going to, already have a foothold. But first mover advantage sometimes is that double-edged sword. You get out there and you have a lower quality product and you can't maintain your leadership, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes that second mover actually is quicker, faster, and better to market.
Yeah, and that's Apple is the absolute king of that.
Yeah,
they haven't done a lot first, but when they release something, it's like, yeah, we've made it a multitude better than the existing, and it'll get that market acceptance, and it's
Hey, speaking of Apple, that's what, according to this, and I don't know, but I just watched on I think it was Netflix, the BlackBerry story. Have you seen that?
Oh, okay, no, I haven't seen it.
We'll go watch it. It's pretty cool about how I think a couple of Canadians.
Oh, BlackBerry, yeah, that was out of Ontario.
Yeah. So anyway, they were market leaders for a decade. We'll say at least a decade.
Yeah.
And the introduction of the smartphone by Apple was really the beginning of their downfall, because that's a story where their patience, meaning, no, we went to the trackpad. They went to a trackpad or trackball or something like that. I think they had a trackball and went to a trackpad when Apple went to no keyboard, right?
Yep.
And then instead of trying to come up with their own smartphone, they went to the almost a sidekick. I forget what they called it, where it opened up into a keyboard, right? It slid. You remember that? The BlackBerry had its own keyboard. It kind of slid out from it.
I remember the BlackBerry, that it was kind of the hardware not mechanical, but the hardware keyboard was what their kind of claim to fame was. And then when the iPhone first came out, it was this, no one will use a screen keyboard and you have to have this, and it was to their own detriment, and it didn't take long and they were done, right?
Yeah, because that was the thing. They said they like the feel of the buttons. They can tell what they're hitting. And what Apple did was just put a sound on it. click, 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 right? So
Well, and
you get,
also a little bit of tactile buzz, so it felt a bit like a keyboard. But what I think people found out really quick is, oh, I get a really big screen if I learn how to type on this. And then they have
yeah,
intelligence built in to make the typing way more accurate. So they it's like Apple just looked at every friction point and went, okay, what's the friction point here? Okay, let's make it tactile. What's the friction point here? Let's make it more accurate. Let's do the spell check on the fly. But I remember one of the biggest bullets in RIM, like in BlackBerry, was I still remember it was this claim where BlackBerry was, yeah, but we're the secure ones. So all the government workers, all this, all of that, they'll only go on BlackBerry because it's got this level of security that Apple didn't have. I'm like, well, Apple's not dumb. That's not going to take long for them to do that. And it was not long at all. And all of a sudden Apple's like, yeah, we just now have the best security too. And that was the
yeah,
final like nail in the coffin for RIM, because I'm like, yeah, you just lost all of your advantage and you still haven't made a phone with a screen.
yeah.
Yeah, that one it seems bizarre to me, but that's what happens when it's, yeah, they didn't take competition seriously. They just convinced themselves that they were better, and until it was too late.
Yeah. So I mean, so I think BlackBerry got killed by patience, though, because they were so
Mm-hmm.
focused on perfection. Just, I mean, even early on, if you go watch that series, or I think it's a movie, you go watch the movie, he wouldn't really release anything until it was right. And he resisted the urge to manufacture overseas till the very last minute when the market pressured him to demand capacity. Couldn't get it out fast enough, couldn't get enough things built in time. So
Mm-hmm.
it had to,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
uh, there was a streaming company around the pandemic, around 20. I don't know if you remember this or not, called Quibi, Quibi, or something like that.
No,
You remember that?
don't
All right,
even
so
remember that. No.
it was, people were already streaming, but then the pandemic hit, right? They had developed a platform for short form video, but think Netflix in smaller bite-sized consumable shows, not just randos like me and you making a video. These were actually produced shows.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
again, think Netflix, think Hulu or whatever for I think broadcast TV, but in shorter form. I mean,
Yeah.
but actual things that you can watch. And it was designed only for the phone, right? So they had worked all the way up to the pandemic about people being on their phone, and they raised almost $2 billion. And the whole thing was they were rushing to get, because they knew Fine, and then it wasn't TikTok at the time, but all these stuff that we do, reels and stories and all this short form video was really taking off. Where they say, well, let's upgrade the quality from amateurs to professional production.
Mhm.
Well, what happened was $2 billion, launched it, COVID and all that happens. People move from the phone to where? To the TV,
Yeah.
right? To the TV, because they were home. They weren't
Yep.
on the road. They weren't on the subways. They weren't, traveling places and, sitting in different places with their phone as much. So these shows really never took off. Plus the quality of the shows were terrible. So not only did people's daily lives change, the shows never took off. I mean, I can't name one from this thing, right? I can't remember one, but they were so short that you couldn't develop the character. You couldn't develop the storyline. It was just, it didn't have
Yeah.
enough. So there's too long and then there's too short. Well, their shows were too short, right? It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, and they, like YouTube has got everything: short, long, really long, like pro, completely amateur. What they've done is they've made it easy to follow and recommend and everything. So if you only want longer form, high quality shows, is probably all you're going to get, right? So I think they had a bit of a tall order to compete with what's established already anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So that Quibi lost $1.7 billion in 6 months.
Ouch. How do you burn that much money? That's
hard.
That'd be really hard to do.
Go out of business, close.
Yeah.
Like, they probably didn't burn all the money. They probably gave some of it back, but closed in 6 months. Can you imagine raising that much money and not be, only to live in 6 months?
Oh man, there's something wrong with that. But you know what? That was the ultimate time before COVID, and just as COVID hit, this whole mentality of blitzscale, where raise a bunch of money and you live or die in a matter of months. If you don't get traction, you die, right? Yeah. And I think what's changed now is that I think people are realizing, you have to have some patience with startups. Like that whole mentality, I think, is so incredibly flawed. Like when 99% or over 90% of startups fail, and you look at it and go, well, it shouldn't be that high. Like it might not be, maybe it's 80% that fail. Maybe it's 75% that fail. It should not be 90 some. It's because there was this mentality of live or die, just do it quick. And if you're not scaling beyond belief, just die, go in the corner and die. And then kind of overnight, all the investors decided, man, you guys should be profitable. Just changed their, and probably killed 10% of the startups overnight because they couldn't pivot fast enough because there was no more money coming, and they were so far from profitability that they killed everybody else off that way too. So it's a nasty world out there, right?
Well, you know who I think displayed the best patience? If you look at the way Amazon grew, everything they did from the 90s, right? I think, starting off selling books in the 90s on the internet was build infrastructure, right? He wasn't worried about the way his website looked. He wasn't worried about, what products and those type of things. His was more about, I'm going to build infrastructure to distribute, to be able to take over a market where I can get products to you faster, right? The technology, the infrastructure, the space, the real estate, think about how long it takes to do that. And look where they've come, right? We'll say 25, 30 years, but we'll say at least 25 years to what Amazon is today. That's an exercise in patience. Like on my long-term plan is this. You don't just all of a sudden go, I'm going to go buy real estate. I'm going to build warehouses. I'm going to have these robots do this stuff. And then also have the technology, the software behind it to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It was epic patience. And also like it still comes back to do it right, not fast, because that was his biggest observation. You remember back when the .bomb, when it was like pets.com and all these ones. And it's like, it was almost this idea that if they got the domain name, they're going to be billionaires. Like it was ridiculous. And he went the opposite of, he started with books, but I don't think his intention was ever to sell books, like exclusively books. And you're right. He built basically the new model of distribution. And like, even when you look at it, even the returns are easy. Like that was one of the biggest friction points. And it's amazing how they've made it probably the easiest and most sort of the best way to even return a product compared to even going in the store and standing in line. I walk into Whole Foods and they scan it and you're good to go. And I'm done, like out the door, right?
Everything. Even publishing a book, if you want to do it on your own, they let you do it on your own right there on the site. I mean, it's ridiculously easy, everything they do. Even if you buy something, I even like the suggestions. Well, when you buy this, other people bundle it with these things or also consider these. I'm like, oh shit, I wouldn't have thought about a cable management system for that. I would have thought, sometimes I'm like going, oh, I probably need that.
I will say they do one thing that has annoyed the living hell out of me for years. And I haven't looked lately, so I don't know if they still do it. But it used to be when you click on your account in Amazon, someone in there, I don't know, marketing or client success thought this was all like such a great idea, but they had all the links down there and they thought they would make it more personal by saying your account, your orders, there's a list of 30 things that all have your in front of it. And so you're trying to scan through this list to find the thing you're looking for. And it is infuriating because it's so much easier to scan when it doesn't say you're in front of it.
Their website is
Awful.
awful. It's absolutely awful. But I mean, think about the millions of things they have to organize on this thing. So I'm like, because I can probably at one point in time, I've clicked on most of those links for whatever reason, right? So you're like, but God damn, it's like super disorganized. It's like there's too much there. I almost hate it. Now on the phone, they made it easier. Now they got this little thing at the bottom saying like shortcuts or something, where it's typically the most common things that you push. I'm like, okay, that made my life a little easier. Where it just says orders, so I can go what have I ordered, because for whatever reason now I'm a consumer that I didn't used to be. I didn't used to buy as much stuff, but now Amazon makes it way too easy.
Well, and like the thing that I think the next step for them is like now they have the kind of Amazon recommended or whatever. And I actually take that a bit more seriously than I used to, because there are multiple products on Amazon that I've ordered products before. You order a product and I actually got one and had to return it because it was missing parts. And I went back on and I just ordered another, what looked like exactly the same product. It was a few bucks less. And it showed up and it was absolute trash. Same color, same everything. The pictures looked identical. It was actually smaller and like absolute garbage. So then I returned that one. And then I learned later, talking with someone that kind of knows that industry really well, said, yeah, that's really common. Is you'll have something will get manufactured and someone will do a cheap version and they'll make it look exactly the same and they'll sell it for a tiny bit less money, even though their costs are probably half because it's garbage. And Amazon is chock full of that stuff. And so it's getting really hard to determine. Like AliExpress, I think, is the same thing. And it's really hard to determine what's actually legit and a high quality product at times. And I think that's an issue that they're going to have to really deal with in the near future.
Hey, I want to talk about a high quality product called Dry Run. So, hey, that was a different transition for me.
Nice little segue there.
But yeah, why don't you tell us about Dry Run?
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I am the sponsor. Dry Run is a sponsor for the show this week. And if you were looking for a way to forecast your cash flow, model scenarios, roll up budgets, really look into the future of your business or the future of your organization and work with other people, that's a really important part of Dry Run. You might be a business owner. You might be the CEO. You might be working with a management team. You're also likely working with a finance team. And we make it painless to do that. And to really understand, so you can get everybody on the same page. We got live dynamic forecasts. You can talk about them on the fly. And I'll tell you, we've gotten finance teams moving from Friday afternoon meetings to Monday because we save them so much time and they can understand what they're looking at. And in a time like this, you need that. You need that instant visibility into the business. And you need clarity so you can come up, you can make the right decisions moving forward. So just come and talk with us at dryrun.com. We'd love to show you what we got cooking here and help you see the future of your business.
Yeah, what I really like about Dry Run is how to model different scenarios and still see them overlaid on top of each other. Like so it isn't that I've got to go look at 5 different spreadsheets. I can look at one page, see 5 different scenarios, and really compare them side by side. I do love that feature.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that nice segue too.
Hey, man, I'm getting pretty good at this segue stuff. It only took 4 seasons. And I think you
Yeah.
picked up on that one. You picked up on that one. Usually I throw you a softball and it like takes you like 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, no, it took 4 seasons to do that, but I sent you a softball last week and you just like froze right up. So now you know how it feels when you do a segue.
I know. I pulled a Blaine last week. I blanked out.
Yeah, like totally blanked on it. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, all right. So let's talk about, like, I called it a double-edged sword. So it's
Mhm.
really four different things, because there are pros and cons to patience. There are pros and cons to impatience.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
go
I
ahead.
just the biggest challenge there is that you only know in hindsight which one is right.
Yeah. So let's talk about patience, right? I mean, how can that help a business? What do you think?
Well, some of the most dangerous things you can do in a business is rush through things, commit to things. You and I both like um, trying to buy your way out of a shortcut. You and I both. I know between the two of us, how many hundreds of thousands have we blown over the years, jumping at things that we think is a quick fix. We haven't properly analyzed things, researched things, understood before we leapt, because we were impatient.
Yeah.
And that's where patience can be such a virtue, because you can stand back. It helps you gather, like you say, gather information from your team, gather information from others, gather information from the market, and likely make a much smarter decision.
Yeah. So I totally agree with that. I mean, I always look at strategy, long-term growth. That takes patience, right? It just, like Amazon, he knew where he wanted to go, but it took massive steps to get there. I look at a couple other things, like your brand and brand loyalty. That takes patience, right? Because you can't just throw up a cool logo and people go, "Oh yeah, I like Dry
Yeah.
Run," or "I like Cashflow Mike." I started using Cashflow Mike in like 2017, right? So
Mhm.
it's and just now to where it's somewhat recognizable in a small subset of the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
accountant, bookkeepers, QuickBooks area, those type of things. I also think your employee base, right? It takes patience to get them also their morale. There isn't an instant quick fix to morale inside your company. I mean, you can't just throw a party and go, everybody, oh shit, he bought us pizza. We're now loyal to the company. Our morale is better.
Yeah.
Patience with your employee base I think, will go a long way as well. So,
Mhm.
what about the other side? How can patience hurt you?
Well, and that's the other thing is timing is absolutely critical in business. And oftentimes the difference between winning and losing is moving fast, is being first to the gate, or that second. That first mover might be like, oh, that wasn't the best spot to be, but you can see an opportunity and you can be the second one in, or you see opportunity and you need to execute
Yeah.
fast. And so there's times when, and that's, like I said, that's where hindsight comes in, because there's times when patience is the absolute 100% right move. And there's times where that could literally like really hurt or potentially kill your business, because you're not reading you're not reading the cards right, and you're not moving fast enough, and being really definitive in what you're doing.
Well, if you look at the life cycle of a company, right, you got startup, growth, kind of maturity, and then decline, right? Those are kind of the four stages. And I just, call them wonder, blunder, thunder, and under because they're funny to
Yeah.
me. But that end stage, it's complacency. I call it founderitis. It's like when the
Mhm.
owner just gets kind of bored with his stuff, but he's just patient. He goes, "Ah, that's good enough," and he's just kind of not
Yeah.
really paying attention to the tea leaves, as you're saying, and he takes his foot off the gas. And when that happens, everything starts to dip off, because everybody else takes their foot off the gas in the company. If there's no driver, if there's nobody pushing the company, if they're too patient, if they're always waiting back, you have your whole staff then doing the same thing, right? You're leading that leadership, and it happened to Kodak, and I've mentioned Kodak, I think, on the podcast before, but
Yep.
they missed the whole digital picture thing. They missed it. They go, no way will people want to take digital pictures. They don't know where them go. They'll lose them because we lose files on the computer all the time, right? Or they're corrupted or whatever. They're always going to want to take a picture, a memory, and hold it in their hand and put it in the book and show their friends or, show their kids later on.
Yeah.
They missed it, right?
They missed it. Yeah.
They missed it. Right?
And I think like even in that example, they missed it because they were preaching to the converted.
Yeah.
Like they were patting each other on the back and saying how dumb this was and how dumb that was. But imagine if they had said, like, for every one of the reasons they said, well, here's the problem, that pictures aren't crisp enough and clear enough. Well, when will they be? Well, when they become a 12 megabyte file. When will that be? Oh, that'll never happen. Or do you look at it and go, yeah, the whatever law where it's like, hey, it grows every 18 months or whatever. And then they could have said people would be scared of losing their pictures. Well, imagine if someone had said, okay, what if they're all backed up automatically to the cloud to multiple places? So your house could burn down, but you're not going to lose your photos because they're going to be everywhere. And if they had looked at what those opportunities were, maybe they would have went, oh shit, we better do something here.
They could have been cloud storage before anybody else. Yeah, because they had the problem.
Yeah, and they didn't recognize it. They talked their way out of it rather than looking at where those opportunities are and being able to jump really quick. Right?
They could have built 3 warehouses across the United States. New York, Kansas, and Oregon, whatever it says. We have the Kodak concave, right? Just put all your pictures there and they're saved forever. Not only that, they're saved in 3 different locations. They'd all 3 have to burn down before you lost them.
Yeah. So are you patient or are you impatient by nature? I'm curious.
I think I've evolved. I think I'm more patient today than I was in my, when I started businesses at age 29. I'm way more patient today. But I'm impatient because I feel like I'm always waiting. I'm always waiting for something else to happen. I'm always waiting for because I have my own app now too. I'm always waiting for the next feature to be ready for testing. I'm always waiting for somebody to produce a design for something else I want to do, right? It's just, I feel like I'm always waiting. And in that case, I've already made the decision on doing it. I'm waiting for execution, and that's where I'm impatient. Yeah. I'm patient in the planning process. I'm patient in the long-term strategy. I'm impatient in execution.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Weird, right?
I've never heard of it but I think I think I have the same sort of thing. And I'm curious if maybe that's an earmark of an entrepreneur, right? Because like my wife, like Heather has said lots of times, she goes, you research the fun out of things. Because anytime we go to like buy something, I'm like, yeah, I want to know exactly what it is, because I'm generally like quality over quantity. Like I just really want to know what we're getting. But then you described it right. When we go to execute, it's like,
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go. There's zero patience now. It's like, that's the one, like go. I don't have time for this shit. And it flips like that. It flips like from, okay, what is it? What is it? Now I get it. Boom. To like right now, this second, done. And I think you explained it really well. I never knew if I just thought it was wired weird, but it seems like maybe that's
right. I still think, planning is everything, but the plan is nothing. The planning is the part where I think through what could happen here. What's the bad thing? What's the risk? What's going to fall apart if I do this? Who's going to be mad at me? Right? Whatever it is. I go, I'm good with that, and I make the decision. Then when I push go, I'm ready for the result.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny because I do the same thing. I just didn't realize that was the thing, but yeah, I do the same thing. And then it's like, then I'm like, kick down the door, frickin' go, get out of the way. I want it now. And it flips like, just like that. Like it's like flipping a coin. It's like, nope, I get it. go. That's just how it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, then I'm writing instructional emails and kicking things out, and it's just a flurry of activity. But I may drag my feet. There's a couple of things I'm dragging my feet on right now because I'm like, I don't know yet, right? I'm just kind of
Gotta dig further. Yeah,
and I don't know if it's patience. I think it's patience in convincing myself, right? And that's probably the analytical part of my personality is.
Yeah.
I got to check a couple boxes before I go, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the research, the fun out of it component.
Yeah. Well, and Larry, God bless him, right? This guy is a mile a minute, an idea a second, right? You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. You should like going, man, those are great ideas, but I can't just do it tomorrow, right? I mean, I can if I thought it was great and I wanted to do it, I could do it tomorrow. Some of those things, but some of them are like going. But if I do that, there's 4 other things I want to do later. This might impact.
Yeah,
right.
You only have limited capacity, and that's some of the biggest. And that's the hardest decision. That's the thing in retrospect or that hindsight. That's always a challenge. Is when you're in the middle of it, you're trying to go, okay, what do I prioritize? What do I dedicate time, money, effort to? And it's only after the fact you can look at it and go, shit, that was just wrong. I had this other one sitting right on the silver platter and I picked the wrong one to focus on, but that's how you learn. And then there's other times you're like, ooh, wow, thank God that I went, like I read it right that time and I went that way and that was right.
Yeah.
And, but I think overall, I would say that the hardest thing to do is to have patience. Rushing into stuff's easy, right?
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing is to have patience, and it's probably the biggest, most beneficial thing is, that's why I keep echoing over and over again, do it right, not fast, over and over again, because I think our tendency, even my tendency, is to push, go, right?
Yeah.
And it's harder to be patient, I think. But I think you get a lot of wins from that, as long as you don't just tread water. Like once you've got to go, like you're never going to get to 100%. It's like the 80-20 rule. It's like, okay, I got it. 80% confident. This is the way to go. Now sprint, go, right?
I like right, not fast. I call it right, not rushed. Right. So, I mean, it just, I like the illiterate. What's it called? The lyrism? I don't know what it is. but here's the thing. I would challenge one thing that has to be an impatient characteristic. Meaning it has to be. It cannot be anything else. And I think that's innovation. I think once you go, because if you were patient, you would be okay with somebody else developing it. You wouldn't be. You just wait until somebody else did it.
I think you have to be but timing is such a big critical thing, right? But I think you have to be impatient to jump into innovation. And then you have to be supremely patient because you really need to understand your customer and the problem you're solving and make sure you're doing it right, or you'll just flop, absolutely flop.
Well, yeah, that's patience and planning. I mean, I really think that's what it is, patience and planning. But, innovation, I think, is an act of impatience. I can't wait for somebody else to do this. It needs to be done today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at least the process started or whatever that is. It needs to be done today. So what's another good thing about impatience, you think?
Another good thing about impatience.
I think innovation is one. What's another one?
Oh man, I wasn't expecting that question to pop out there. So I
was impatient. I was impatient, and I'm like going, let me put a fiddle hopper out here for him to hit real quick.
Oh, nice. See, I was so patient and waiting for that to pop up, and you snuck it in. So that's I will give you kudos for that.
You had 49 minutes to get it in. You missed it.
I know, and I even have it noted right here, and I missed my note. of getting the Fidel hopper in. So I give you tons of credit for that. And yeah.
All right. So, I mean, you got innovation, but on the other side of innovation is, there's a competitive edge and then there's being adaptable, right? Because even if you're not innovative,
Mm-hmm.
the market situations, things change around you. Adaptability is also a little bit impatient. Adaptability, which means when you have to change, you have to pivot, you have to move. It might take you a second to get there, but the act of moving is impatient.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I've done that a couple times, and it is hard, and it's a challenge, and it's interesting because the pivot itself, and we've done some pivots, especially moving like up market with dry run. The pivot itself, we were patient for a long time, and then there was this almost it had obviously built up. There's that day when it's like, no, we got to move up, we got to do this, and then it goes to instance impatience, and it's slam the brakes, change direction, and it's hard. It's scary and hard to do that, but it's like there's no patience at that point, and then it's so hard to be patient. But during that process, there has to be a lot of patience because it's really hard and you got to do it right. If you try and rush it at that point, it's like all the stuff you've learned and you understand now. If you rush it, you probably won't get the benefits from it, right?
Well, and you could be the con side of impatient, which is I change too fast. I've got something that's working, and it may be just one more week away, and I pull up. Right? It's just one of those.
And that's a challenge. When you look back in time, if something worked, you didn't do it soon enough. If something didn't work, you rushed into it.
Yeah, right.
It does at the same time, exact same time. It's a perception after the fact that changes.
That is the quote right there. That's the quote for the whole episode, right? We're right coming up on the end of the hour. But yeah, if it worked, you didn't do it fast enough. If it didn't work, you rushed into it. So yeah,
that was for about years, 5-6 years. My fantasy football team was named the Hindsighters because every year it'd be like, oh, I know what I did last year. I did this wrong, rushed into this, did this wrong.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of hindsight, I mean, if you haven't had the opportunity to sponsor our show, you can be a beer sponsor. You can just go to mikeandblaine.com, click on buy us a beer, $5 an episode. It's evergreen material. We'll talk about you. We'll drink your beer. And, well, you get to promote your brand to all of our listeners, which is ever growing, by the way. So it's evergreen and ever growing. So what else can they do?
Well, you can buy our merch. Just make sure you follow. You can even message us. Go to our Facebook page. Go to our LinkedIn page. You can connect with Mike and I on LinkedIn. Make sure you connect with us and you can chat with us. But make sure you're subscribing so you don't miss an episode.
There you go. I like that. So, man, I'm going to tell you what, next week I'm going to be in Memphis.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that. I want to leave with this, and nobody listens to the end of the show anyway, but if you haven't had the opportunity to vote for me for Entrepreneur Champion of the Year, all right, go to zoneofgenius.com, go /award finalist 24, and then pick Mike Blaine as the Entrepreneur Champion of the World. So zoneofgenius.com /award finalist 24. And boom, you get right into me. I'm going to post that again on the Facebook page. So if you want to see it there and you want to click on it, you want the link to click on, I'll put it up there again today. Yeah. And you know what? I'll add it to the show notes so that it's on YouTube, LinkedIn, and everything else as well. So definitely head over there. And I also found out today, which I didn't know, because I was like, as soon as I found out about last week, I went straight there. I voted. We shared it everywhere. And then we went through an entire week. And then Mike said, have you been voting for me every day? What do you mean I can vote every day? I voted already. Turns out you can vote every day. So now I've got it on my to-do list to vote every day. So if you've already voted, go vote again. Go vote again. Vote every day all the way up to it. So I've already booked my plane ticket. I booked my hotel. So I'm going to be there. You cannot win if you're not there. So I'm going to be there. I just need your help to help me get up on that stage with Seth Godin and Ramon Ray, and I appreciate y'all.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.